the beam, because it's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critic's Choice. With me, as always, the People's Champ, Tim Keck.
If you feel it, chase it, baby.
If you feel it, chase it. And today might as well be a national holiday on Nerdy for 30 because we are talking about Blade. Tim? Blade is one of my favorite little 90s gems. But I don't know that you've always expressed as much love for it as I have. What do you think of Blade?
Oh, I love Blade. You know,
Okay,
I love Blade.
Thank
Blade's
God.
incredible. Blade's awesome. This movie's phenomenal. I never really read any Blade comics.
Mhm.
So I never thought of this even as like a comic book movie, but I guess technically it is. This is just a kick-ass action movie, I think, right? Like this is just a good-ass movie. The vampires kind of add this awesome extra level to it where you can have all this fake CGI blood exploding. The graphics are terrible, but it's still really fun. Wesley Snipes at the peak of his powers, looking jacked, looking awesome, hair on point. They've got the sword that was so friggin' cool, throwing stakes at people, burning people. I mean, that dude from that one sitcom just kept getting Quinn just kept getting rocked
Yeah, dude.
the whole time. That was
Donald
awesome.
Logue
Yes.
out here getting ripped. Man,
It's a banger.
yeah,
It's so good.
this thing is so much fun. I was going to say my big takeaway was going to be, it's like Blade says in the movie. It's not a superhero movie. It's something else. If you had no idea this had any kind of relationship to a comic, you're fine. Like, I think it's kind of crazy in a way to lump this in with superhero movies because this just stands alone as this incredible supernatural action movie. And to your point about the vampires and all the cool explosions and stuff, this is the kind of stuff I used to live for. In school, I used to doodle constantly, just drawing all the time in the margins of my notebooks everywhere. And I used to like to draw all these big epic fight scenes. But I learned based on our school rules that are like there for good reason, you weren't allowed to draw violence. So the way they defined violence was you weren't allowed to draw people perpetrating acts of violence on other people. But if you were drawing people perpetrating acts of violence on robots or monsters, that's fine. So I just ended up drawing like a lot of these giant battle scenes where like robots would be destroying each other and like exactly stuff like this, like vampires getting lopped in half by like Blade and Spider-Man and that kind of shit. So
Yeah.
This is just right up my alley. It was then, it is now.
Yeah, that's perfectly cool. It is. Yeah. Is this movie as much fun if it's real people? No. But you're right. This doesn't.
No.
It's fun that they're exploding. It's fun that they're burning up and because of they're shining a flashlight on them. It's fun that they've all got superpowers and it's like this crazy world. I mean, this movie starts so hot with like you see the origin of Blade, you see this scary pregnancy thing, and then we go immediately to vampire nightclub blood rave, and I'm thinking, when are we going to get to? I kind of forgot how Blade shows up, but he just shows up at the raid. I mean, this guy Blade, there's a situation, he just walks into it. There's no stealth. There's no backdoor. There's no sneaking with Blade. Blade needs to go somewhere. He is there. And he's just being the most like obstructive, obtuse way to do it. And why is he there? Yeah, I feel like he could have just mowed down everyone in there and just killed 1,000 vampires, but I guess he was looking for specific information and looking for Deacon Frost, who was there in the club. We see him at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so cool. He's cool from start to finish, and I'm all about Blade, man. Even though there are maybe my beef, but also they're really funny. There are moments with Blade that are so fucking stupid.
You're talking about the fist pump?
Oh, what fist bump? Tell me about the fist.
He does a fist pump. It's a fist pump.
Oh, yes.
It's in the, he like stakes Donald Logan. It's so fucking dumb.
I was thinking of when Whistler is explaining to Vanessa what they do, and he says, we're tracking vampires. And then they cut to Wesley Snipes, and he's just holding a map, and he has a pencil out like he's studying the map. And it's like so on the nose. It's just unacceptable. It's so freaking dumb. And then there's another scene where Whistler is like fucked up and Blade finds him and he's like covered in blood and Blade is taking little pieces of gauze and dabbing at Whistler's necks to stop the blood. And the motion he's doing, it's like clearly busy work for the actor during this scene because he's not cleaning up any of the blood. In fact, every time they cut back to Whistler, there's just more blood on it. And he's doing nothing. He is so ineffective in his gauze dabbing. It is just a complete ineffective waste of his time. And it's so corny and so dumb. There are just some moments in that where you're just like, okay, maybe this is a comic book character. Maybe why they need to go so cheesy with this. But I also like it. Watching it now, it makes me smile.
Dude, it's so funny. And like it's so close at times to being parody that when I showed this to Lauren for the first time a couple years ago, she loved it. It like this one, it's a crossover hit. Like this one has the broad appeal. When we rewatched it, she was excited to rewatch it too. But it's so close already to being parody that it's so easy to riff what the comedy version of that scene would be. Like if somebody did an Austin Powers. And one of my dreams, we can add this to the crowdfunding list. One of my dreams is to do a Blade parody movie starring Lamorne Morris. I think Lamorne Morris's sense of humor would be perfect for scenes like Blade with a pencil behind his ear, marking out maps of vampires, while just being fucking stone cold serious to camera.
That'd be so good. That's what I want. It's so funny. And then there's even at the beginning too. I thought this is so funny this time when Blade lights Quinn on fire in like the basement, and then the fire department shows up, and the fire chief or whoever's in charge is just like, put him out, boys. Like he was tired of doing this. Like there were no stakes or urgency at all. I was like, what is this? Are these all familiars who just hang out around vampire clubs and clean up the messes? Is that what these people are? Because if this is a real firefighter just coming down to a nightclub basement and there's a dude covered in blood and another dude on fire nailed to a wall, I think I'd show a little more urgency or a little more excitement. You know, that fight or flight might be beating out of my chest right now.
Yeah, these are definitely familiars. There's no way. As soon as I saw that scene, I was like, these people are wasting taxpayer money. They're standing around in a circle. These guys are tending to vampires that are getting staked to walls all the time by Blade, but they have to be familiars because they just, to get to this little side room, they had to walk through a room that was covered in blood. There was so much blood in that room, dude. They wouldn't be standing there so calmly if they didn't already know what the fuck was going on. This place,
not a chance.
That linoleum, you know, those guys probably come in there at the end of the night every night to hose it down. They were showing up because they were already there, getting ready for the hose down after the vampire orgy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, as corny as this movie can be at times, I feel like we've talked about some movies recently where there is instead of subtext, they just say the thing, and it's frustrating. And I like that they let Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson, Blade and Whistler, like not talk about how they care about each other, and just the actors show that they care about each other. And that sounds so dumb and simple, but it also just makes a movie better. It's better that they're not, you know, telling each other they love them. It's like, we know based on their actions that they care for each other, and it allows them to both still be like, I don't know, it deepens the relationship, not putting the words out there. So I thought that was great too. You know, it's like, this isn't a dumb movie. I think it's well thought out, and they set out to make a good action movie, and they knocked it out of the park, man. I think it's great.
Yeah. I think to that exact point, I did want to talk about Whistler as like a low key thief in this movie, because
yeah, for sure.
That's something that this one has that I really feel is missing. I know they have different workarounds for Blade 2 and Blade Trinity, but having Whistler in this one is this incredible grounding force for Blade. And having him there as more of the guy who can explain things and who explains some of the infrastructure that Blade is working with allows Blade to remain that guy who just strolls into the middle of a vampire rave and takes people out. Like, for him to be that calm, cool, collected person, we have to see somebody else doing legwork. It's the same as when you see the tailors and stuff in John Wick and like the gun sommelier. All those people have to be there so that John Wick can be John Wick, and we don't question any of the logic of this.
Yeah, you need the guy in the chair, and he's a great guy in the chair, and he also kicks ass. And although it's pretty clear that he kills himself in this movie, he's in the next one, I'm pretty sure. He's just
Is he
there
in Blade
walking
2?
around. Yeah, I think he's definitely in Blade 2. And it's just like, oh, he just, is back.
Wait a minute. Now we're gonna need to do Blade 2 on this. If this
We're
is
definitely
true,
gonna have
because
to
I
do
haven't
Blade 2
seen that in a
because
while.
I'm pretty confident he's back, because then they team up with other vampires to take down a different vampire. And at one point they have to split up into groups, and Whistler goes with one group and Blade goes with the other. I remember that
Oh,
distinctly.
motherfucker. You're right. First
Um,
paragraph on Wikipedia. Holy shit. Yeah, I got to rewatch this one. Blade 2 is one that I haven't seen straight up 20 plus years.
dude, Blade 2 better than Blade 1. I'll say it right now. I haven't watched it in a while, but Blade 2 is like just straight ass kicking.
I
Just
remember Ron
straight ass
Perlman's in it.
kicking.
And they've got like the
He
hammer, right?
crushes it.
Like somebody has like a hammer and there's like a subway tunnel and they're smashing people's heads.
Yeah, dude. They have like he teams up with vampires to fight other vampires, and it's just kick butt action. It is. I was thinking that this is one of the better sequels is Blade 2, honestly. I think it's really up there as far as just like, it's the same premise, it's the same guy. They put him in a slightly different situation, raise the stakes a little bit, and we're back. We're back into it, Blade, I can't wait to talk about Blade Trinity. We got to do that one at some point. I've been reading more about Wesley Snipes and Blade Trinity and the Ryan Reynolds of it all. And there's a scene in Blade Trinity where Wesley Snipes is lying on his back and he's supposed to open his eyes and he just refuses to do it. So they have to CGI his eyes opening. And that's what's in the movie. It's insane. There's YouTube. You can watch it. You can watch a YouTube clip of it where they just have to CGI him opening his eyes because Wesley Snipes, the human actor, refuses to do it because he was so pissed off about having to do that movie. So, but in this movie, he's bringing it. He's bringing it. He's coming correct, and he's kicking ass. And damn, I love Wesley in this. It's so fun. And the occasional motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind? So good, so good.
I mean, look, like the lines in this movie are so good. Obviously, I mean, the number one has got to be some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. It's the single greatest line I've ever heard a character say in any movie ever. It's also one of the only line callbacks that I have actually genuinely appreciated in a legacy sequel like Deadpool and Wolverine. That's one that I was like, let's go. This one rocks. This one gets it. There's some other ones I was iffy on. Spider-Man No Way Home. The like, I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. I was iffy on the one that's an alien Romulus that I don't really even want to say, just in case people haven't seen that yet. Go check it out. Alien Romulus was really good. But yeah, I skate uphill. That's exactly what Blade should be. Like, do people in action movies get dumbass lines like this anymore? I'm trying to think back to like the Expendables last year. I don't think anybody in the Expendables was saying catchphrases before they killed people. They were doing ridiculous stuff in the movie.
They know that's their brand. I forget. We'd have to go back and rewatch, but I feel like I'm confident they were. But you're right. That time is it's seen as a little too cheesy nowadays, but it is still the funnest thing. And it's crazy because that line is at the crescendo of the movie. That is his line before he kills the main bad and ends the story. And it's the note the movie ends on. There's so much weight on this line and it comes out of nowhere. It's so goofy and good. It's wild. It makes no sense.
That tells you exactly what they thought of lines like that, is that they were willing to put it in the climax.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it was great. I really like Deacon Frost in this too. He was so good. That actor's great. They do a lot of teasing with him at the end, with the sword, which I love the sword. The sword was so cool. As a kid, this was very important, was how cool the sword was and how the spikes come out. Like as soon as you pick up the sword, a timer starts ticking on it. And if you don't click a button right away, these spikes come out and, blow your hand off if you're a vampire. And so Deacon Frost picks up the sword. He's swinging it around. We're all looking at it, waiting for the sword to go off. And he clicks it. And he's like, I know how all this works. And then he picks up the serum from Blade. And the serum in this case is a serum that makes vampires explode. But Deacon Frost thinks it's a serum that keeps Blade from needing blood. And I don't think it's the same serum. I think this is the explodey serum. I don't think they're the same.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely different.
And so he thinks it's the wrong thing. Blade's like, give it a shot. And he's like, no, because his morality protects him. And there's like a couple teases like that where it's like, oh, like you could get him. Like you think there's something's going to happen and it doesn't. And I love it. It's just another fun. Yeah, I just forgot how fun the end of this movie was like that.
Yeah. I mean, they managed to do a lot of cool, fun things like that just in the movie. Blade's relationship with Quinn is so funny. And like
Yeah.
all these things, he keeps cutting the dude's arm off. Like
So
they get the
funny.
kind of tit for tat. He stakes him against the wall in the beginning. Quinn stakes him against the wall in the museum. It's like, it's so cool that they're able to pull all of that off within the bounds of this tight movie. It's 2 hours. I feel like this is the rare 2 hour movie where we're like, this is okay. This is 2 hours.
Yeah, it feels tight, feels right, feels good, comfortable. The thing with Quinn too, I mean, you're right. He teases him the whole time, and then at the very end of the movie, he does that little clothesline thing, and his whole body disintegrates. And it's like, oh shit! It's like it was a running gag the whole time, but when he actually kills him, you're like, okay, now Blade means business. There's no more putzing around. There's no more figuring things out. He is a man on a mission, and his mission is to kill Deacon Frost. And I love it.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Tim, a couple things stood out to me. They were very surprising when researching this movie. The first, when researching this movie this time around. First things first, this movie's set in LA. For some reason, I always thought as a kid this was New York.
Me too, because there's a subway.
Yeah. Well,
So I
there
assumed
is
it
a
was New
subway
York.
in Los Angeles, which is very
No,
strange. I rode
that's
the
not
car
true.
over there almost 10 years ago. It might not still be there, but it was one of the weirder experiences.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah, it's set in LA. That feels crazy to me. I guess it's sunnier, but this somehow feels like a quintessentially like New York thing.
I guess he does have a car and he drives around in it. So maybe that's
True.
not a
But
super
both
New
of
York
us have
thing.
SUVs.
That's true. Gas guzzling SUVs like real Americans, and Blade's a real American in his Dodge Charger. I don't know what kind of a car he has, but it's looks like good old American muscle, and I'm here for it. You know?
Yeah. Hell yeah. I think he and Ghost Rider and Thomas Jane's Punisher all drive the same car. This is like
That was the car,
territory.
dude. That was the car. That like Pontiac GTO was always like in triple X, you know? Oh, man, what car?
Yeah. Oh, fucking triple X, dude. That's another time
now
capsule.
I have to look it up. What car does Blade drive? A Dodge Charger 68. I mean, yeah, it was always like a 60s.
Like then.
Yeah. So cool, man. That's the car. Boy.
That's very
Blade.
cool. Another one that really surprised me. Blade, the character, 30 years old. What do you think about that?
I don't know if he feels 30.
How old would you have guessed Blade was?
40.
Yeah, same. Is that
But I
just
guess
because we're older?
Because we're in our 30s and we're like, he can't be. There's no way. There's no way
Blade's younger than us.
Yeah, it's also weird that they make a point of saying he ages like a human. And so there's guys there who are old men who were born vampires. So they're ancient.
Oh, and then the guy that gets killed in the sunlight, he's got to be fucking like 1,000 years old.
I love a sunlight kill. That's so cool. Love the flashlight burning people. It's awesome. Yeah, Blade has an old man energy to him. And a real stiltedness and indifference that makes him feel old to me.
I think it's a similar thing. We're going to be talking about Hellboy, I think, next week. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't rewatched it yet, but I'm pretty sure they have a line in the movie that he's about 26, because they say that Hellboy ages in reverse dog years. So every 7 of our years, he ages 1. But hearing that he's like 26 is like, no, Hellboy is not. Everybody, all these action guys, they're all 40. I don't care, across the board.
Yes, every action hero is 40. Batman's 40. Superman's 40. 40 is the magic number where they have experience. They're like firmly men, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Wesley himself was 35 while they were filming this. So that feels a little closer, but it's still like, I don't want Wesley Snipes to be my fucking agent Blade.
You're right. Then maybe this is on you. I think you're right. It's got to be late 30s or early 40s, I feel like is the prime superhero, space. Punisher's got to be 40s, right? There's no way he's in his 30s.
I mean,
Uh,
realistically, all these guys, if we're talking about it, they should all be like 28 or like 29 because that's when you have the youthful vigor. Like you've learned enough that you're not going to do dumb shit. If you're a superhero, this is one thing not people don't do enough with this. If you're like super powered and you're like 20, you're gonna fuck some shit up. It's not gonna go good. Even through to like 23, 24, you don't know enough yet.
yeah.
34, you're getting there. Maybe you know enough, but like your body's already kind of starting to turn on you. Your back's not good anymore. And it's not gonna get better.
Yeah, you're ice skating downhill at that point.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that 28 is like the prime year for basketball players, and that feels like a good year. If you have peak athleticism, 28, and then in your 30s, you're just slowly dying. I think we're all just racing towards death at different paces. Speaking of that, I did want to mention my favorite kill in this movie. I don't know if you have a favorite kill.
Please.
There is a moment in the end. I feel like I haven't noticed this before, but it brought me so much joy this time where he rips a guy's throat off and then throws the throat at another dude. Did you see that? That was crazy. He like hits him in the face. I don't know why that never registered with me before, but that's insane. That's so cool. So crazy. I never understood what he was throwing, but he ripped off enough throat because normally it's like, it's like blood. You don't see, but he ripped off enough throat to throw at another person. That's crazy. That's so cool.
Look, man, the throw is right there in the name. These things were made to be whipped at another person.
God, it was so awesome, man.
That rules. I would have to go back. I should have looked at this under more of a critical eye for what the favorite kill is. This kind of qualifies as one of those things where, like, when there's a certain amount of action going on and it's good, my eyes kind of glaze over and I'm just happy. Like,
yes,
it's just cool to see the choreography. And like, I would probably have to watch it again to pick out specifics, but that's something where watching a movie in theaters for the first time, I'll just kind of like, I just go into like a very contented meditative zone where it's like, action. There's one at the beginning of the movie in the rave that's really cool where like I think it's the woman that we see in the car and the drive to the rave. She's the woman that brings the guy to the rave. And there's like fight going on. He's already wasted a couple of vampires and the two of them are grappling. And I think he like whips the shotgun up and it like clicks right underneath her chin. And she has like this perfectly timed hiss. And I think he jabs her with like the bayonet thing on the shotgun or something to make her explode. But it's just like the rhythm of it is like so cool. And you've got that like pumping 2000s techno in the back. 98. This is early. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
So good.
It's so cool. The fight scenes are so fun and they're also silly. There's moments when he beats a guy up, he kicks a dude in the face and the guy's just standing there and he just grabs him and like pushes him over. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of just like toying with people. And his fighting style is so fun and kicks ass and his weapons are great. That's another one that made me laugh so hard in this. He's got that boomerang thing, like the bladed thing that he throws around and just cuts people's heads off. And there's that moment when Vanessa is trying to sneak away from Blade and Whistler catches up to her and introduces himself and he goes, and that's Blade. And Blade drops from behind her real quiet. And then he stands up with his arms crossed and he's got the blade thing. And it's so corny. It's so dumb. And I loved it. I couldn't get enough, but it was it was cringe. It was cringe, Blade, but I loved it.
It is. I mean, it's so over the top that it should be cringe. And yet somehow this stuff is like, it's funny, cool now. It's like ironically really cool, but also still very cool. Like he is pulling it off. He's not like barely pulling off this action. Wesley Snipes is doing a very good job.
He's pulling off the action, but just as Blade is torn between two worlds, human and vampire, Blade as a character seems to be torn between real like human interactions and just over the top self-serious corniness, right? There's the moment when he's standing there with the blades looks so lame and awkward. But then he goes and meets his buddy to pick up the serum, and he like daps him up, and it feels like a very normal human interaction. And then
True.
when he's at the hospital and being like, "Motherfuckers, are you out of your damn mind?" That seems like kind of like Wesley Snipes peeking out, as opposed to the self. It's funny that he's both of those things. He's simultaneously seriously looking at a map and then also capable of making jokes and cursing people out.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
We contain multitudes, Tim.
And especially Blade. Yeah. I was thinking
Especially Blade.
if Blade, I had a couple vampire related questions while I
Please.
was watching this, obviously. Was how do vampires make money? I was thinking about that with the rave. Do they all have jobs? Do they all work remote? Are they all just stealing from people like Blade does?
No, trust funds. Every single vampire you see is a fundy. And the reason that they're mad about people that got turned is because now they have to cut them in on the trust. And I mean, this is all, every single penny they have is interest that's been accrued from having one of like the first 5 stocks on the stock exchange. Like this is just, they are literally old money.
So you think if you became a vampire today, someone from the Vampire Association would reach out and get you a stipend from the trust, and then you just start going to blood raves and having a good time?
I think so, yeah. And I definitely think it's begrudging. I don't think they want to. I think that's why they hate people who've been converted.
They're going to grumble
I don't think
about
anybody,
it, but
like realistically, it seems like from the way that Blade and Whistler are talking about how much they hate vampires, it sounds like vampires are just the absolute worst pieces of shit possible. So they'd have to be involved in like all kinds of really awful business and like, just like dark, like black market stuff, dark web stuff. Like that would all be vampires probably.
yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I was also wondering about this, and I think I've answered my own question a little bit, but why aren't there more Blades? It seems like an easy thing to do. All you have to do is find a pregnant woman, bite her, and make sure the kid survives, and you've got a Blade. But my kind of justification for that is that vampires are inherently selfish and putting themselves first. So why would they give that power to another creature? It's not like they can take it for themselves. So if they even created more Blades, those creatures would just be bigger threats to them in the vampire hierarchy. Because if Blade wasn't a good guy, he could just be the best bad vampire, right? Aside from the fact that he ages like a person. I guess that's his biggest limitation. But he can go out in the sun. He has all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses, and a few of our weaknesses. So I don't know.
Yeah, the worst thing, a really cool twist that they could do is if Blade decided to break bad, he would be a huge threat.
Yeah. I was also wondering, I was thinking about this in New York, but I guess it works in LA too, is how long in LA could a guy like Blade just wander around LA and nobody does anything to stop him or says anything? I mean, he's walking around full on swords, black trench coat, guns out. He's pulling guns and then just puts them away and walks away. It's a little while.
Yeah, there's the scene where Frost has the kid in the park, which by the way, that kid dead. That kid dead 100 times over. He picks the kid up by the kid's head. That's how people get hung. That's how a hanging works. The kid's fine. And he throws the kid into traffic like 30 feet away. No. That shot
Through a bus stop?
Through a bus stop. Yeah, I forgot. Was the
tough.
kid the kid had to be a daywalker. That's something I would love to see, is that like they bring it back later and that kid is now grown up and he's now played by like Steven Yeun or somebody. And it's like, man, that'd be
great.
a blast.
Get Steven Yeun in the new Blade.
Ah, fucking please. Yeah, I think there's Blade fires 35 rounds at him in the park. I don't hear a single siren.
No, nothing. But that's LA. It's just background music to them. It's birds chirping.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's children laughing. Just the sound of gunfire. The stuff with his mom too is really, really fucked.
Oh, it's nasty.
How his mom was actually turned by Deacon Frost, his nemesis. Turns out is actually his vampire dad.
Mhm.
And his mom hates him now, or is just more invested in being a vampire than being his mom. And he has to kill his mom with a bone he found. That's a mess, man. That's a lot. That's a lot for a guy to deal with.
It's
That's a lot. You know, and he first has blood. He has like a weird bloody sex scene with Vanessa. And the second he's ready to
With,
go, he has to murder his
Karen, you
mom.
mean? Vanessa's his mom.
Dr. Karen Jensen. Well, yeah, I mean, they kind of have a weird thing too. She is like all up in his
It is
face, like
uncomfortable.
a little horny around him, which is weird. It's strange.
That's the vampire thing. Is they're all like these weird, like, what's his name again? Quinn got his arm cut off, and then he's like talking about it, and the woman who's there and she's like helping him bandage it, like bites it, and the dude who gets his arm cut off by Blade's sword handle is then like he like screams, but there's like a scream of pleasure. It's very like Hellraiser, where the Xenobites can't tell the difference between pleasure and pain anymore. Feels the same way with the vampires in this. They're just really horny and also like violent.
Vampires are definitely the horniest monsters, without a doubt. They are.
No question.
Everything about them is horny and sexy in a scary way. They can't come into your house unless you invite them in, and then they sneak in as mist, and then they suck your blood, and it's like this horny sexual thing. It's very strange.
I would say follow up. It's vampires first, and then immediately after that, I would say it's probably Booberry. You know, the cereal Booberry. Booberry fucks, and it's a problem.
Just the cereal. So when we're talking about mythical creatures of horror and folklore, it's vampires 1, it's Booberries 2, and then what, the blue things from Avatar who fuck animals, is that our top 3?
Yeah, those things are legendary cinematic horn dogs.
Top 3 horn dogs: Booberries, Avatars, and vampires.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to move Avatars up to 2. It's insane.
It's passing Booberries.
They're literally fucking everything that moves.
Yeah,
it's everything.
It's weird.
There's at the end of it, their tree. They fuck the planet, Tim.
They do fuck the planet. They fuck trees.
Ah, boy.
It's a good life.
It's a good life if you can get it.
It's an honest living.
We talked about this, but at Disney, we were at Disney earlier this year, and they have like tails. So you can get like a belt, and the belt has an avatar tail hang off. And it's like, it's weird. It's weird that Disney doesn't acknowledge what these things are. I never thought about it twice until you brought it up on our Avatar podcast about how it is the same thing that they used to have sex. So it's weird that then people are just walking around these parks with like basically an avatar dong hanging around. And you can get other tails too. You know, you can get Sully from Monsters Inc. But you know, Sully's not plugging that tail into Mike Wazowski. Maybe he is. We're not seeing
off screen.
It.
Maybe.
Off screen.
In my head,
I mean, on my Tumblr, he is. Everybody else's head canon, who knows?
According to the AI I've designed.
Yeah.
Yes. But they should, at Disney, they should have a rule where if you buy an Avatar tail, a Na'vi tail, or whatever, they just escort you out of the park, and so you're not allowed back here.
It's a test, like in the bike riders.
Yeah. Let's go. Leave your friends. You can come in, but your friends have to stay. Wait, why would you leave your friends? It's just like that. You can buy a tail. You can do anything. You can be a Na'vi, and then they do it, and they're like, "You've shown your true character. We do not want you here.
Oh,
your kids can stay.
Everything
your wife can stay.
Your wife can stay." Oh boy, yeah.
That's a legal divorce in Florida. I think is if Disney World
the only legal divorce.
Yeah, you have to go to Disney World and be legally separated by Disney World from your family in order to, and they never see you again.
They never see you again.
Yep.
Oh, man. Tim, this is a great one. You know,
any other thoughts on Blade? Oh no, we should wrap it up.
Just, I really love this. It was so good to see him again in Deadpool and Wolverine. There is a part of me, I heard a rumor that the long delayed, very trolled production of this new Blade movie that will allegedly star Mahershala Ali. I heard a rumor that one of the reasons that this thing was having so much trouble moving forward is that one of the drafts was that they're basically going to try to sideline Blade completely, immediately, and have the story be about his daughter, who is a character that's in the comics, but like you can't have it. It's so exactly illustrative of everything that Marvel has been doing, where it's like Blade would be the titular character, but the entire movie would be about setting up another franchise that could happen down the line instead of just living in that franchise like they did with Shang-Chi. So like, if that were to happen, if the worst were to happen and that's the way they go, part of me hopes that they would just swap Wesley Snipes back in. You know, I'm so attached to him as Blade. Swap him in as the daughter. If they have him in there, and like, it's fun to think about the idea that he could be the only cinematic Blade. I feel like he occupies the same kind of casting that Hugh Jackman does as Wolverine. Can you think of anybody else off the top of your head that could be Blade and pull this off?
No, but I'm excited to see Mahershala Ali do it.
It feels like a good pick.
I think it is a good pick. I think it'll be a different take on it. And I think that's okay. And we should all expect that. And I think they should let him cook. I think they should let Blade cook. I mean, he's a cool character. We all want to see it. I think Marvel's, probably 2 steps ahead of itself with this, where just give us what we want. People want more Blade. Give us Blade, and just make it a good movie. And you know what? If it's a good movie and you have a couple characters in there that are fun, you've already got your second movie lined up, right? It's that easy. Just crush one, lay one stone down, and eventually you'll have a path. Marvel, please. I don't know what are you doing, but I'm optimistic. Who knows?
Me too. Their hands are full of stones. They don't know what to do with all these things. Listener, what do you think? What do you think of Blade? Classic, right? Let us know. nerdyfor30@gmail.com. Send us an email. Read it on the show. We'll be back here again next week with Hellboy. We are very much in the October spirit this year. I'm stoked. I fucking love the Hellboy franchise so much. So we will see you then. Till then, stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Stay nerdy. Bye. Hellboy. Hell yeah.